When you first move to the US, the biggest surprise is realizing how cashless everything is. Trust me, I've been there. It can be overwhelming to see that everything seems to be through a digital banking method. So, I have developed this video as a guide for those who are just getting their feet wet and for those who are just moving or are just starting out on figuring out which bank they should go for. The reason I made this guide because when I moved here, this was overwhelming for me, figuring out which bank to go for, the technicality, terms, the documentation. I had some help, but being an introvert, it can be a bit hard asking people for help. And Google helps a lot, yes, but the overwhelming information can be a bit intimidating. So I made this guide. Now I will tell you step by step how I opened my first bank account. So when I decided to get my first bank account, two things mattered to me: convenience as to how close my bank would be from me, and the fees associated. I went for Chase, and when I was researching different banks, Chase was one of the closest banks to where I lived and worked. So I went there. The staff was amazing, they were nice, they gave a bunch of documents and explained everything. And among these documents was a voucher for a Disney card. That was where I was sold. So Chase offers a Disney Darth Vader black card, and being a Star Wars fan, I really liked it. I went for that bank. That was one of the reasons that I decided to go for Chase. But you shouldn't do that. Look into other options. So one important factor to look into when deciding which bank to go for are the fees and maintenance charges associated with it. In order to maintain a bank account, you need to pay either a certain maintenance fee, which is different for each bank, or keep a minimum amount of money monthly in your bank account. In my case, since I was getting paid, I worked at a job, I had a minimum which was $500 for me, so I didn't have to pay any maintenance. But for other people, it's better to look into it what would be the monthly maintenance fee. Next are the ATM charges. So if you swipe your card at an ATM that is different from your parent bank, you would have an associated fee. Same goes for any foreign transaction fees. So people who tend to send money outside US to their families should definitely look into foreign transaction fee. And if you travel often, it's also important to look into that, since if you are using your card outside the US often, there will be a fee associated with it. Another factor is convenience. When you first move here, you might not have a car. So it's always better to choose a bank that is at walking distance and is reachable. And also the fact that you should have multiple ATMs around the city. Although majority of time you won't have to do ATM withdrawals, but if you do, it's better to have a bank that has multiple ATMs. Next, the perks and rewards associated. Multiple banks even offer perks and rewards on their debit cards. I will go into detail on a later date, but for now, I will give you an example of my bank. So Chase offers discounts on different brands like Nike, Adidas, Sephora, and they also offer discounts. Since I have a Disney debit card, they also offer discounts on Disney World. If you are an expat or an immigrant who has family outside the US, it's also nice to look into banks that offer discounts or they waive the foreign transaction fee to your home country. So some banks offer these facilities for Mexico and other Latin American countries, and even India as well. So look into it. Now let's go over the basics of the US banking system. In the US, there are more than 4,500 different banks, but majority of customers for one of these five: Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and Capital One. Majority of US clients tend to work with these banks. So it's also always advisable to go for a bank that's well known or is reputed like one of these. I go with Chase as it is the second most used bank in the US. Now, a bit of a very brief overview over debit and credit card. I won't go into the details because right now it's just taking the first step. Absolutely do not get overwhelmed with credit cards and interest and savings account. For now, you just need to get a bank account. That's the first step. Just focus on that. But the basic difference between a debit and a credit card is a debit card will always be your money and your liability. So it will always be a transaction based on the money that you have on your bank. As compared to that of a credit card is money that the bank loans you and you can use it. There's an interest associated with it if there's a late fee. If not, you won't have to pay any late fees. There are different credit cards and different limits, and for different types of people, this is a whole different avenue, and this can be very overwhelming. So for now, just focus on a debit card and getting a bank account. Now, the documents that you need. You would need a valid photo ID, proof of residence, legal status if you are an immigrant. So you need a legal status And just like that, you can open your bank account. There's no fee with opening a bank account. If you are a US national or you are a resident of the United States, your driving license should suffice. Now, the timeline: your account is live the moment you open it. So it doesn't take long for your bank to account to be valid, but it takes a couple of days for you to get your debit card, and they will get it printed and mailed to your address. Now, decoding some bank documents. And an important thing that I had to look into it was the overdraft. So US Bank offers you a service where, let's say, for dining or groceries, even if you do not have money in your debit card, they let you overspend a certain amount. Like for example, $30-$40 for groceries or fuel, even if your bank account is low, the expectation that you would pay them back. I recommend turning this service off. You have an option of turning it off. Tell your banker, call the bank, turn it off. It's not advisable to overdraft because this way you won't be able to stay in your budget. So my recommendation would be to turn it off. So I just wanted to do a disclaimer as well during this time that this is a very personal video. Majority of it is my personal expense. Before I move forward, I just want to do a disclaimer that this is a personal video and the majority of the things that I'm telling you are personal experiences. So take it with a grain of salt, do your research, but this video will help you in summarizing the information that you need to know or the things that you know. So it will save you all the trouble of decoding multiple documents. So finally, remember, banking can be overwhelming, can be intimidating, but it really isn't that hard. Everyone in the bank is trying to help you out. They will be nice. They might even have people speaking your same language. So asking is a very important thing. Americans can be very polite. So finally, if you have been following my video, now you must have an idea of how to open a bank account, which banks are there, which one should you go for, which factors will affect your decision making. So just understand, it can be overwhelming, it can be a bit difficult to understand, but relax, it will be fine. And finally, it's always smart to ask your colleagues which banks they go for. For example, your friends in your institute, in your college, or your colleagues at your workplace will go for a certain bank, and a lot of people in that institute or workplace or college will be probably associated with the similar bank. So it's always advisable to go for these banks as well. They offer enrollments, and when you enroll, your enrollment coach might even give you a brochure for a certain bank. That's also interesting to look into it. Thank you for sticking around till the end. If you want to watch more videos, you can click my latest upload here. I will see you soon. Bye bye.